So today we are talking about the Masters of Science in Secondary Education. We more commonly refer to this program as the MSSE. So that's how I'll be referring to it throughout the presentation. We do have our department chair, Dr. Alan Olvera, here with us, and I'll just allow him to jump in and give a brief introduction and say a couple of words.
Sure. It's great to be here with everyone. Welcome. And I'm a professor of science education. So if you are in science and mathematics, chances are that you're going to be working with me under my advisement. And I'm also chair of ETAP. And I'm here today to try to answer any questions that you may have and encourage you to apply to our program.
Thank you. So we'll get started. So why become a teacher? This is probably something, if you're here today, it's probably something you've thought about. Teaching is a profession that's extremely rewarding. You have the ability to make an immediate and long-term impact on your students' lives. But not only that, just your greater community and society as a whole. You have the opportunity to meet the challenge of addressing inequities in education, which is certainly an issue that's coming to the forefront more recently and something that needs to be addressed and something you can play a part in as a teacher. You can develop your own identity as a teacher. Of course, our programs can provide foundational knowledge, but you become the type of teacher that you want to be. You know, maybe the type of teacher that you had, or the type of teacher that you wish you had when you were in school. You get to use your strengths, your creativity, and your knowledge to help others learn. There are job opportunities all over the place, so you can work where you want and be sure that you're always giving back. And as a teacher, know that each day will be different. There will be challenges and opportunities that you'll face through your entire career, but it's an extremely rewarding field. So I'll give you a brief overview of the program itself. So the MSSE is an opportunity for students who do not already hold New York State teaching certification. So this is a really great graduate program for those coming from majors such as English or chemistry or biology who weren't certified at the undergraduate level. So the way that New York State certification works is that you first obtain initial teaching certification. There are some colleges where at the undergraduate level, you can obtain that initial teaching certification. And you can begin teaching after that. The only thing is that everyone who teaches in New York State must obtain professional teaching certification as well. And the only way to obtain professional teaching certification is by getting a master's degree and also by having 3 years of teaching experience. So we always kind of position ourselves as sort of being an advantage that you obtain both initial and the master's degree needed for professional all through this one program, so that when you complete this program, all you need to do is complete those 3 years of teaching experience to obtain your professional certification. That's the last type of certification that you need in New York State. And so doing this all through one degree program allows you to move on to your career and start to get those 3 years of experience right away. It is a full-time program lasting approximately 16 months, and students can begin in this program either in the summer or the fall. Like I said, it provides initial teaching certification and the master's needed for professional certification to teach a secondary subject area for grades 7 through 12. And the subject areas that we certify in are listed here. There are specific admissions requirements for the program as a whole, which I'll go over. And then there are also specific admission requirements for each content area. So for example, if you wanted to be an English teacher, there are a certain number of credits of English coursework that you need in order to enter that program. And the same goes for each of those subject areas. So we also have an option for a combined program for our UAlbany undergraduate students called the Great Dane Teacher Program. So if I have any UAlbany undergraduate students here, this is a brand new initiative and a wonderful opportunity to get you started on your graduate coursework while you're still an undergraduate student. It's an accelerated pathway to become a teacher. We currently don't have an undergraduate program leading to teacher certification at UAlbany, but this is a really great option for our students. So students can take up to 12 credits of graduate coursework in the master's in secondary education program while they're still working on their bachelor's degree, which saves them time to complete their degree, and also saves them money because they are paying undergraduate tuition for graduate level courses, which are more expensive. The same admission requirements apply and deadlines. So I do want to make that clear. If you're looking to apply to this program, there's the combined program. There is no difference in the way that you would apply. I believe through the graduate admissions process, you would check a box that you're applying for a combined program, but there aren't different admission requirements for our undergraduate students applying to this program. Not every subject that we certify in is part of the Great Dane Teacher Program, as you'll see. So currently, our foreign language program and our physics program are not part of the Great Dane Teacher Program at this time. So just be aware of that if you're interested in this Great Dane Teacher Program. So as far as application and deadlines go, for a teacher preparation program in New York State, the GRE is a requirement. We, as well as other universities and institutions, are trying to be as flexible as possible, understanding the difficulties that students are having with COVID-19 and testing centers being open. So currently, in light of the changes brought about by COVID-19, our department will consider your application, even if you haven't taken the GRE, and you would be conditionally accepted into the program with official admittance to the program, depending on receipt of your scores by the time you've completed 12 credits in the program. So that's our policy right now. So you can certainly apply if you have not taken the GRE. If you have the ability to take the GRE, you'll have to take it no matter what. So you can certainly plan for that if you have the ability to take it, but if not, just know we will consider your application and give you a conditional decision. Other application requirements include a minimum 3.0 GPA overall and in your content area, so in English or history or chemistry. 3 letters of recommendation with at least 2 from college professors in your content area. 3 credits or 1 semester of a language other than English. The credit requirements for your content area. So I had mentioned earlier, if you wanted to be an English teacher, you need a certain number of credits of undergraduate or English coursework. And our program website, which I'll direct you to later in the presentation, shows you for each subject, for each content area that we certify, what's required as far as previous coursework. We have a statement of goals as part of the application. And then once those parts of the application have been reviewed, some candidates will be contacted for an interview if the committee decides to pursue their application further. The application deadline is March 15th. There was I believe a January deadline as well. And we have those 2 different deadlines because a lot of times certain content areas are very much more popular than others, and it's always better to get your application in earlier. But we have that second deadline to allow for more people to apply once we know what our capacity looks like. So I talked a little bit about the program, but why choose to go through a teacher preparation program at UAlbany? We have programs in a range of areas with opportunities for continuing education. We are ranked the #1 best public school of education in New York State. And we're also ranked the #2 best public school of education in the entire Northeast by US News and World Report. We're ranked among the top 10 online education programs. So while this isn't a fully online program, you may have the opportunity to take online programs during your time as a student here, and know that our online education is extremely strong. We have a legacy of contributing to the field of education, particularly teaching. UAlbany started off as a teaching college in 1844. So there's been a long tradition of graduating teachers from UAlbany. And there's a commitment to enhancing the understanding and practice of teaching and leadership through different modalities of instruction, experiences, and work with our faculty. And speaking of our faculty, I think what's really great is the diversity of interests of the faculty within this department. And this is a lot of writing on this slide. I'm not going to read it all to you, but you can see that from literacy to science education to cooperative learning, there are plenty of faculty with expertise in a broad range of areas. So whatever your interests are, whether that be content area, whether that be a certain type of teaching style, or working with parents specifically, there will be a faculty member who likely would be able to, that you'd be able to work with and learn from about that thing that you're particularly passionate about. And this is just a couple of the faculty from the department. This isn't everyone. So I do encourage you to visit our program page if you want to learn more about what our faculty do and what their interests are. There's great support. So you have advisors to guide you through your program, assist you in selecting coursework to pursue your interests. We have staff that help to place students for their student teaching experiences. We have great support for our online students and our online courses. And we have faculty and staff with working relationships with schools and community partners in our area. We also have really wonderful students who have great experiences through this program. This is just a quote from one of our alumni of the MSSE program. This program changed my life. My professors and mentors saw something in me I didn't see in myself at the time, and they deeply uplifted and encouraged me. Today, I teach algebra at my high school alma mater, and I know that I was called to be in the classroom. So, where to find more information? This is our main page, our main program page, with all of the programs for the School of Education listed. Let me just pull this out. But I'm going to bring you guys to the MSSE page. In case you haven't visited before, it is a wealth of information. So this is secondary education. It tells you a little bit about the program. It lists all of those application requirements and deadlines that I mentioned. It also tells you about the program itself. So what you'll be studying, what you'll be certified in, what is required of you. And it also provides that information about the requirements for each content area. So I had mentioned English. So to be eligible for this program, you must have majored in or completed 36 credit hours in English equivalent to a major. So this will tell you for each subject area if you're curious about what is required for you. You also may want to check out what's called our graduate bulletin, which has even more detailed information about the requirements for the program. So that link is right on the program page. This brings you to it. This also shows you the admissions requirements for each subject area. So you'll be able to read through those here. And it tells you a little bit more about the program itself, which courses are required, and any additional requirements for the program. So again, this is a really wonderful website. If you scroll down, that's where you'll find the information on deadlines and required application materials, and just great information and contact information as well. Let's get back to this. Another wonderful place to find information is through the PI Center, which I mentioned earlier. I am the director of the PI Center. We provide information to our prospective students. So if you don't get your question answered, if you think of something later tonight that you wish you would have asked, please reach out to the PI Center. If we can't answer your question, if it's something that's like very specific to you and you want to know the answer, we're going to be able to connect you with the person who can answer your question, or we'll be able to answer the question ourselves. If you would rather have more of a discussion with someone in our office, we do offer open Zoom hours. And if you just go to the PI Center website, so Pathways into Education Center, you will see that we have open Zoom hours Monday through Friday at differing hours. Our staff is a group of really wonderful, well-trained graduate assistants who offer hours throughout the week, and you can find the link to the Zoom chat right on that page. So just kind of plugging our office, but letting you know what a wonderful resource it can be. So that's the information that I wanted to share. And I'm going to jump right in to talk a little bit about the questions that were submitted by those who registered. And Dr. Oliveira, if you can jump in and help me with any of these, I would certainly appreciate any additions you might have. So how many years on average does it take to complete a bachelor's and master's through the Great Dane Teacher Program? Dr. Oliveira, do you have a timeline for that program?
For the bachelor's and master's program, I think it would be because we have 12 credits overlapping. It's 3 years plus a year. So it's 4 years.
Yep. So it would be 5. I think it would be 5 years. So 4 years of the undergraduate coursework, including the time that you take those 12 credits, and then 1 additional year after that.
Right.
When do students graduate from that program? Since we just started, we actually haven't had a graduating class yet. Would they be spring graduates?
I believe so.
Okay. So then how long does the program take if you are not part of the Great Dane Teacher Program? I think we answered that. It's about 16 months. It's 3 semesters, correct?
And 2 summers, yeah.
And 2, yeah, so like you're straight through during that time, and that includes your student teaching experiences.
Right.
Do you require official or unofficial transcripts for applications? We require official transcripts. If you're having difficulty obtaining an official transcript, I would connect with the graduate school. I believe we can review applications with unofficial transcripts, but we can't officially accept students until we have their official transcript. Is that correct?
Yes, we need to have the official documentation. If you don't have them, actually the graduate school is going to ask for them.
They'll reach out. Okay.
Before making the acceptance official.
Okay. This is probably a good question for you, Dr. Oliveira. Can you talk more about student teaching and how are students placed and where?
Well, student teaching, there are actually 2 different student teaching experiences in the program. The first one occurs in I think it's in the spring semester and then in the fall semester, which are the second and the third semesters of the program. And so the first one is it's a part-time placement, so students only have to be at schools, or we're also doing hybrid online placements now because of the COVID situation, but it's only half a day, half of a school day, whatever that means, in the different formats that we have today. In that first placement, also a lot of times students work in pairs, work together with a partner in that student teaching. And then from that one, we go to a full-time placement. And that's when you get to spend a whole day in a school where you're assigned to be at. In terms of where, we're trying to accommodate students' requests. So that's actually the first question that we ask students when we're beginning the assignments is, where would you like to be placed? What's the region that would be the most convenient for you? We use that as our starting point and try to do our best to accommodate the requests, although that's not always possible. And then if it's not possible, we start looking for alternative assignments for students. But we do try to accommodate any requests. Generally speaking, our placements are within 1 hour radius from UAlbany. That's more or less the region that we target.
When thinking about what scholarship opportunities are available, that's a great question, and that's kind of a 2-part answer. So our graduate school has information on funding and scholarships that are university-wide. So if you go to the graduate school website, which is just albany.edu/graduate, which I'll bring you guys there right now. And you can find out more about funding graduate school through this link over here, and they'll have information about the cost, about scholarships, and about other opportunities that are available to graduate students. I don't believe that students through this program typically do have assistantships, but it's certainly something that you can look into or talk to graduate studies about.
I have seen people in the past get an assistantship from like specific departments. They work sometimes in the athletics department, and I've seen that happen with a few people, but a lot of times.
Yep. So there are university-wide assistantships available that you may be able to apply for depending on your eligibility. And those are all set up through the graduate school. So yes, those would be an opportunity that you could look into if you were interested. But also through the School of Education, we offer annual scholarships. So it's really wonderful that as a school, we are able to narrow it down, the pool, and sort of offer those scholarships just to our students. A lot of those scholarships are directed and targeted towards students who want to pursue teaching. Those scholarships are offered on an annual basis, and I believe you'd be sent information about those scholarships. There are several available, and you'd be sent information about those in November, December. You would typically have your application in by February, and you would find out about the award of those scholarships by the end of the academic year. Can you discuss teacher certification? Can you teach with a bachelor's degree? So I kind of went over this a little bit, needing that initial teaching certification. So like I said, if you did obtain initial teaching certification through an approved teacher preparation program at the bachelor's level, at the undergraduate level, you certainly would be able to teach. This program is not for those students. It is for students coming to us without any prior certifications. This program, like I said, provides initial teaching certification and the master's degree that is required for anyone who wants to teach in New York State. The application process, we went over the requirements for applications, but like I had stated, once you submit your application, you would be contacted by the by admissions with an offer of an interview if the department wanted to pursue your application further. Dr. Oliver, do you happen to know a timeline for that?
Well, we review any applications that we get until the deadlines that we
Okay.
have. I think you mentioned it's January 15th and March
And March
15th.
and March 15th.
And then typically the interviews follow it within 2 or 3 weeks. That's typically when the interviews happen.
Wonderful. Are those interviews being conducted virtually right now?
Yes, they are.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. So that's sort of the process, and then a decision would follow, I would guess, shortly thereafter.
Yes.
Okay. Will courses be taught fully online, in person, or hybrid?
This is not normally an online program, right? Let me just highlight that. So right now, this semester, I think all courses are being offered online because of the pandemic. So it's an exception, that's been approved by the states. It's not supposed to be a permanent format. So it really depends on how the vaccination for COVID, progresses and how the situation with the pandemic progresses. So I don't think it's clear still what the format will be. If you were accepted if you apply this semester and accepted for the fall semester or future semesters. It really depends on how the pandemic's progresses, and so it's hard to tell. But chances are, that if everything goes well with the pandemic, that we'll go back to face. I think that's what everyone wants at this point.
Who should write letters of recommendation?
Definitely not mothers or fathers, right? But colleagues who know your ideally it would be all professors and people who you took classes with. But I think if you only give us maybe 2, I think that's enough for us. And a lot of people end up getting letters from co-workers or people who know them professionally in any capacity. So that's also a possibility.
So speaking of professional experiences, should candidates have previous teaching experience?
Not necessarily. No, I've seen some people have tutoring experience or substitute teaching, but it's not a requirement.
All right, thank you. So those were the questions that were submitted. I'm going to stop sharing my screen here and just see if there are other questions that people may have beyond what was submitted. Let's see. So would you be able to explain again on how incoming freshmen would take the Great Dane Teacher Program? That's a great question. So the Great Dane Teacher Program is something you cannot apply to until you have junior status at the university. So if you are coming in as a freshman, it's certainly something you would maybe want to start thinking about and structure it, like certainly having one of the eligible majors. So that would be English, history, chemistry, biology, earth science, what am I forgetting? Mathematics. So those would be the eligible majors. That would be the first step. You'd want to be sure to keep your GPA where it needs to be, so that 3.0 or higher. And you can work with your advisor to make sure that you're on track to meet the requirements for the content area. So if you're majoring in English, you're going to meet the requirements, the credit requirements needed. But just to make sure you're on track. Something I also would recommend is to think about declaring the pre-education minor. So we have two education minors at the university. One is our general education studies minor and the pre-education studies minor. The pre-education minor is specifically directed at those who are interested in teaching. It's a wonderful complement to your major if you're interested in the Great Dane Teacher Program. So you could apply once you have junior status. And again, it's all the same application requirements for you that it would be for a typical graduate student. So everything that I reviewed in this presentation and all the deadlines that I mentioned, that would all be the same. And if you had any questions about that, please feel free to reach out to the PI Center. We are more than happy to help. Could you describe in a bit more detail what a typical weekly schedule would look like once enrolled in the grad program and how the schedule would change each semester? So I'm guessing you're thinking of course schedule as well as student teaching schedule. And Dr. Oliveira, do you want to touch on that?
Sure. This is a full-time program, so typically that requires 12 credits of coursework. So the first semester you are taking probably four courses. So it'll be a busy day. Some people still manage to work part-time, but you have to be really good at managing your time and everything. The second semester you still have to do 12 credits, but 6 of them are actually student placements in the schools. And the third semester it's only the full-time teaching experience. So that's more or less how it looks like. And typically in the summer, people take 1 or 2 courses in the summer.
And are courses typically offered during the day, or is that like in a normal situation?
They are typically offered in the day. Trying to remember the time where all the MSSC courses are being offered right now. I have to look it up, but it's normally during the day. There might be some evening courses too on that list. That's why I was thinking whether they might be.
So we had a question, would I be able to keep a minor in addition to the program, or would that be too much? Definitely not. So you actually at UAlbany, you need to declare a minor. And so if you're going to declare a minor, it would be a wonderful idea to declare one that would give you a great foundation for a profession in teaching and for a graduate program. The minor, you are correct, the minor is recommended but not necessary. As a transfer student, and if you're looking into the psych minor, that's completely acceptable. It is not required, and psychology is something that would certainly be helpful for a teacher to have a good handle on as well. Dr. Oliveira, is there a certain GRE score that is expected for admissions?
No, there's no specific score that's required. It's just something that we take into account in light of all the other qualifications that you may have. So don't worry about having a particular score.
Yeah, we always advise students who ask that question that the GRE is part of a greater picture. So you have so many other things that are components of your application that matter to us. Your GPA, your letters of recommendation, your passion for the field and for this program, those are all things that are considered by the committee.
Plus the oral interview. So even we try to go beyond the paperwork and actually see the person behind the paperwork.
Exactly. Do we have any other questions coming through? I don't see anyone in the chat that we missed. wait, I think I see one that I didn't get. Are the additional program NICED requirements such as DASA needed to begin to graduate? That's correct. You would need those 3 workshops. So the Dignity for All Students Act workshop, the Child Abuse Identification workshop, and the School Violence Prevention workshop. Those 3 workshops are required to complete your program. What do we look for in a statement of goals? That's a great question.
Good writing skills, big one. someone readiness to pursue graduate study, passion for education. Those are all things that I look for when I'm reading a statement.
Thank you. Any other questions? And again, if there's something that pops into your mind after this session is over, please reach out. I'll type in the Pi Center's email address. It's picenter@albany.edu, but please feel free to reach out to us and we'll connect you with the answers to your questions. I am not familiar with those workshops. Is this something that you would complete during the master's or prior? Those workshops are something that you would complete during your time in the program. So those are a New York State Education Department requirement for anyone who's pursuing a teacher certification. And so your faculty, your advisor, the program structures itself in a way that they would help you either to find a location or they would include that workshop as part of your coursework.
Yeah, some of them actually done earlier. We encourage you to do earlier, like there's
before the program starts.
Yeah, like there's a fingerprinting
Yep.
element sometimes,
Yep.
and I'll be encouraged to do some of that earlier. Others
Yep,
are actually done towards the end as part of the seminar that accompanies the student teaching.
And those would all be things that once accepted, there would be lots of communication with you about how to go about doing that and when to do it. So no worries about working on those things before applying. These are some great questions. Are there any other questions?
And I would just add, myself that, I would encourage you to apply. A lot of people are concerned whether they qualify or not. And when in doubt, I always say apply, and don't be afraid. We're going to give you the feedback, and consider your application seriously. So do apply.
Thank you, Dr. Oliveira. And thank you all so much for dropping in on Zoom. We've had a lot of great success with these virtual sessions, and I'm happy that we had a turnout today and hope that you guys learned something from this session. Thank you all so much, and I hope you have a great rest of your evening.